You have entered the Stoner Society, where we celebrate the growing cannabis industry and a deep dive into cannabis culture. Join us as we highlight influential voices, share personal journeys that connect us all through the love of the plant. Whether you're a seasoned enthusiast or just a curious newcomer, we have crafted the exclusives just for you. Today, we're going to dive into current Supreme Court ruling that has been shaking up the cannabis industry. We're going to unpack the implications of the Supreme Court's Chevron ruling and how it has impacted the rescheduling of cannabis. In this episode, it's all about understanding what it means for the cannabis community, businesses, and for future legislations. So let's break it down. The end of the Chevron Defense. First off, let's talk about what actually is the Chevron Defense. For decades, this doctrine has given the federal agencies of the United States, who are only covering U.S. policies, that authorizes the impact and ambitious laws. Especially if a law is passed by Congress that was unclear, agencies like the DEA could fill in the gaps and kind of like really take it as interpretation. But the Supreme Court recent ruling has effectively put an end to this practice. Without the Chevron defense, courts are now have more power to structurize and overturn agencies' decisions. So this pretty much means those organizations, they had the time and the place to do their due diligence in that way. But this ruling really takes us back to now our Supreme Court is just going to be able to make those decisions without the agencies. This shift means that any regulatory decisions about cannabis, including its classification, because just recently we went from a Schedule 1 to now a Schedule 3. So for medical purposes, this has moved us right far in the right direction. For some activists who feels as if, why aren't we just, not going to classify it at all? It's declassification. There's a happy medium that I feel in future years that we will get to. But that's really not going to be the case here. We will face much more rigorous judicial laws regarding cannabis. This change is systematic because it alters the balance of power, reducing the autonomy that these agencies are given, and it gives more authority to the courts in that sense. These agencies have been able to operate in a certain fashion that has allowed them to do their due diligence and make those certain decisions. Now it all goes back to the fair root of checks and balances. So when you take away a check and a balance like that, for some people, the Chevron defense is just a small inkling of all the changes that are happening in multiple states. In some of our states now, we're getting where recreational is going to be where it needs to be, but now those agencies aren't really going to be regulating those decisions under the changing. It's cannabis is now going to change for its like more federal sense. The changes from the rescheduling of cannabis, it explores how this ruling complicates the rescheduling of cannabis. Currently, cannabis was rescheduled from, remember, a Schedule 1 substance, which means it's more restrictive category under the Controlled Substance Act, right? Now we've moved it into a Schedule 3 that would recognize it for medical benefits, like I had said, and just reduce some of the red tape and the regulatory burdens on the cannabis industry, businesses, cultivators, but now there's just more leaps, hurdles that they're going to have to go through with the rescheduling. However, at the end of the Chevron defense means that the opponents of rescheduling has been a new tool to just delay and challenge proceedings in the court. It's another tag race, really, in the sense where, because think about it, court cases go on for longevities. Justice systems and the United States, how we check and balance all those things. So instead of it just being like the DEA and some of these other agencies have followed the regularization of it, legal battles can drag out on for years. And every step of the rescheduling process has been subject to be intense judicial scrutiny. The legality of it has created an uncertain major hurdle for those advocating for the change in cannabis's federal status. It has taken years and decades to us to get to this stage. It will probably take, I don't, maybe in my lifetime. I'm almost 30, so maybe in my lifetime we'll get to that point. But I feel like policies change, I try to stay out of my personal political of it because I am just here to give you the raw facts and break it down in a way that you can make the most educated decision for yourself. And so the impacts on cannabis and how it operates as a business has changed in a whole different impact because Chevron Defense means that there are no more checks and balances for that. And it affects more cannabis businesses than you think. For cannabis businesses, this really creates a landscape for regularization so uncertain and so much uncertainty because operators who are hoping to have a clear, more favorable laws on regulation face more complex and legal environments than anything. So a grower, a cannabis business, just a let's just use a cultivator for an example. Let's just use a cultivator for example. The way you have to grow the plants, so in which state you do, and the process in which you do it, and the legal part of that your business. Any cultivator they have checks and balances. They have regulations in place that they can own and operate a legal cannabis business. The lack of clear guidelines from the federal agencies makes the compliance more challenging and more costly because you could think you could go out and be like, I need these certain lights because that's what the regulation does. It's been like that for years. So you're going to go by the same lights that have been for, if you're doing an indoor grow and just say, okay, now the courts have changed it and you now have to go do something. It's just more costly, it's more effective, and it's a lot of different hurdles. Moreover, the ruling may differ in new entrants into the market. It can waive some legal risks, and there's a lot of legal loopholes that can be prolonged in court battles. Existing operators will need to invest more in like the legal side, lawyers, regularization experts to navigate kind of the new terrain, what's going to go, how it's going to shift. It could shift the innovation and the growth within the industry, at least for a short term. It will stun the growth and the operation and the innovation, the way we breed strands, the way we sell seeds, the way we operate online cannabis businesses, even the distribution of bongs and pipes and things like that. The need for congressional action has come with this ruling in tenfolds. Given these clear challenges, it is clear that the legal actions, the legality of it all, is more critical than ever. The Supreme Court ruling signals that the courts will be less likely to uphold a broad distinguishment of authority from Congress than the federal agencies. So this means that for many changes in cannabis regulation can occur. Congress could pass more specific and clear laws. Congress can have more like fitty-ditty laws that are very vague, and that's usually what they kind of done. They kind of put like the outline, the baseline, and then the states will take their rendition of it and change things according to what fits their economy and their needs in that, and just the overall people. But it's just gonna take us some time to get there, in a sense. Legislation clearly could be paved in a more consistent and a more predictable way for regularization, just clear outlines where, it'd be in a normal sense, it'd be great if, our congressmen and our activists and people that are really into people, industry shareholders could like shake hands and really just need up the efforts in the lobby, kind of change things around. Let's shake it up. We are almost there to full legalization. But what does that mean? What does that actually look like? And with this step and these new laws and the way that the justices are going to determine throughout these cases will determine what that future looks like for cannabis and the industry itself. The ruling underscores the importance of political engagement and advocacy in to shape like new marijuana policies. We're all about destigmatization and the love for the plant and teaching about mindful consumption, and that we're just not, we're a society of stoners, but we're not just what a typical stereotypical stoner, what people would assume a stoner would be. And we're much more than that. We're much more than our consumption. We're much more than the plant. The plant is just a part of you and just an extension of you. And it brings community and just wholesomeness together. So what does that actually look like? Adopting new legal challenges is what's going to get us through. Let's discuss how the cannabis industry can adapt some of these new legal challenges. Like at the end of the Chevron Defense, it means that businesses must be more proactive in their legal strategies. How are they going to do labor fees, regularization? Make sure that you have to have your ducks in a row to operate these cannabis businesses. It could be more involved and more robust, if you want to say, in compliance programs, getting bigger investments into cannabis businesses, into more lobbying efforts on the Congress floor, closer collaborations with like legal experts. What really, if I come from the clinic and I get pulled over, if I got weed in my car, how are those regulations going to change? How are those things going to the war on drugs is starting to end? Let's just get to the more legality of the part, and that's what the industry is going to be most engaged in, is like public education, and advocacy. Because if they can change those policies, if we can actually educate people about the benefits of cannabis and what is just that feel-good feeling and terpenes, and just like break down cannabis to the science of it all, like we break down pretty much everything else in a public school setting. I'm not saying like, let's take weed 101 or, what's your weed kit 101, but it's just like little nuances and things like that. So it's harder to engage in those instances, because to build broader support in legal changes, we must, by raising awareness, the benefit of rescheduling and the changes posed to legal framework can shake and help the division of political policies and the need for reform. Like we said, the end goal is to be federally legal all the way around. But what does that look like? And by educating and advocating, like we have our stoner forefathers before us and gone to do those things, we're now shaping the framework for that future. In the Supreme Court ruling on the Chevron Defense marks a significant shift in the regularization landscape for cannabis as a whole. While it presents new challenges, it also highlights the need for continuous education and advocacy and destigmatization to move those legal actions along. The cannabis community must stay informed, we must be engaged, we must be proactive to navigate this evolving legal environment that we're now going to step ourselves into. Now that you're fully informed, I just want to make sure that you guys are just really going to take in that we are the change. We are things. Cannabis is moving in a whole new weed has saved so many people's lives in a mental state, in a health state, and just the community of it all. So thank you for tuning in, and remember to stay connected with us for more updates and insights into the cannabis industry. We would love for you to follow us on all our socials at the Stoner Society Pod, and we are just moving along. Until next time, and don't forget to stay lit, because we are getting started.